ironically, and it's a surprise to most people, the letting sector is completely unregulated. It is absent regulation, really, as compared with the state agency, which is relatively tightly regulated. So letting agents only have to belong to a consumer redress scheme. You can regularly come across letting agents who don't so belong, but that's the only requirement. Beyond that, there is no requirement to have, for example, insurance for landlord's money or tenant's money, client money protection, or even to keep it in a separate bank account. So the level of regulation is pretty low, actually, at least in England, more so in Wales, and possibly increasing in England. The government is consulting at the moment on introducing provisions requiring all letting agents to have client money protection as well, but we'll have to see how that ends up. Yeah, the main reason that landlords lose money to letting agents, again, there's sort of two types of letting agent. There's the mad and the bad, basically. There's letting agents who can't do basic maths and accountancy, and they start out with what they think is a workable business, and either they were wrong to begin with or something changes, and they end up quietly abstracting money to pay bills. And what you tend to see happening a lot with that is that you'll start getting less and less rent, or it will start appearing later and later, and then it will slowly fade away to nothing and a set of excuses, and that's basically what's happening there, is the business is spiralling into dust. It's worth bearing in mind in that context that the Consumers and Markets Authority guidance for lettings professionals says that agents should pay over rent received within 5 days, not 5 working days, but 5 days. And if you're not getting your rent promptly and on the days you expect from your agent, you should be asking very serious questions very quickly, and you should probably demand a full accounting. If they're saying that you're not getting the money because it's not being paid by the tenants, then you need to know what they're doing about it, and certainly if that's more than 2 months of that situation occurs, then Section 8 notices should be being served. If it's they're saying that expenditure has been incurred against the property, which is why you're not getting the money, then I would be asking to see the invoices and receipts and know what it was for. Again, one of the problems with these things is that people tend to delay too much before these occur. The second group of problems, of course, is the bad, and these are the people who are always going to steal your money. Generally speaking, most of them are going to steal your money pretty early on, actually. They're not going to sit and wait for 5 months to steal your money. They'll probably be off with the deposit of the first month's rent. And there you are. There's not a huge amount you can do about it at that point. You should have, in fact, have looked at it earlier on in the situation. Yeah, I mean, if you're in a conventional agency relationship, then the tenant's your tenant, not the agent's tenant. You're perfectly entitled to contact the tenant. But if the tenant has paid your agent, then you're fresh out of luck. Sometimes you see landlords saying to the tenant, well, I haven't got the money, so you still owe me the money. And that's not correct. If the agent has stolen the money, then the tenant has done nothing wrong. It is the landlord's problem, very completely. And of course that equally applies if the agent has stolen the deposit and failed to protect it. It is the landlord's problem. And it's also potentially the landlord's problem to pay the appropriate penalty of up to 3 times the deposit to the tenant. So it's important to say that an agent sure will do a lot of the work for you, but you should keep an eye on them and make sure they're doing their job properly. There's an assumption on a lot of people's parts that agents know lots. Some agents are very competent and know a lot. Some, I'm just kind of surprised they know how to get out of bed. As I've said many times before, if it looks too good to be true, that it is. If their price is distinctly below other people's in the same market, then why is that? You tend to find that a lot of less suitable agents are going in with very, very low management prices. They're usually finding the money in some other way, because they're usually going to take it back from you by charging you vast amounts of money for repairs, or the business model's just not sustainable. It will disappear horribly with all your money, and so you'll end up paying them more. So cheap is cheap for a reason. Do they have client money protection? Some agents will already have it. Hopefully soon all agents will have it, but you need to check it's in place. Are they actually members of a redress scheme? You need to go and ask them which they're members of. It should be on their website. If it's not, I would already be walking away. And check with the redress scheme that they're actually registered with them. All the redress schemes allow you to check online that agents are actually members. I would be looking at the company, the name of the company, and looking at it on Companies House, which you can do for free, and make sure they've been filing their accounts on time for the last few years, and make sure it wasn't set up yesterday, or there aren't in fact 3 other companies with pretty much the same name that have been struck off or dissolved, which basically shows you that someone's jumping from company to company. while scarfing people's money on the way. I've seen that a fair few times. I would really want to be looking for someone who's a member of one of the professional bodies, which means their accounts will be audited properly and they will have client money protection, which is definitely not a guarantee, but a substantial improvement on operation. And then I'd ask them some basic questions. Can they tell you over the phone what their pricing structure is? I've always sort of taken a general view. If an agent can't explain to you their pricing structure over the phone fairly clearly, they're probably not worth dealing with, because you don't know what you're going to end up paying, which is the most important thing. And then you could ask them a couple of useful questions about the type of tenancy that they're going to grant, what type of tenants they look for, how they reference those tenants, and make sure those answers make sense and are satisfactory to you. If people are cheap, then they're going to cut corners somewhere, or if they're cutting corners, it's your money they're cutting corners with at the end of the day. The whole point about being an agent is you don't really have liability for anything. That's why, in a sense, it's quite a good business model. But if you're a landlord, of course, that means that everything's back on you, and you want to make sure that your agent's doing a good job.